In the Middle Ages, time was not something you checked on your wrist or phone. It was something you felt. It rose with the sun, faded with the light, shifted with the seasons, and bent to the will of kings, churches, and calendars that rarely agreed with one another. For most medieval Europeans, life followed the rhythms of nature: sunrise and sunset, planting and harvest, the waxing and waning of the moon. Monks and clergy lived by an even stricter schedule, governed by prayer bells, feast days, and a carefully refined liturgical calendar. Sundials, water clocks, astrolabes, and eventually mechanical clocks all existed. But despite all of this, knowing the exact date was surprisingly difficult. So why, in a world so deeply concerned with order and ritual, was timekeeping so confusing? Why were there multiple New Year's days? Why did minutes not exist? And how could traveling from one city to another change the year itself? Welcome to Untold Medieval Mysteries. This is the strange, tangled story of time in the Middle Ages. Today, the idea of New Year's Day seems simple. January the 1st marks the beginning of the year almost everywhere on Earth. But in the Middle Ages, that idea would have made little sense. In medieval England, for example, January 1st was not considered the start of the year at all. While aristocrats might exchange gifts on that date, the official New Year, known as the Year of Grace, began on Lady Day the 25th of March. Lady Day commemorated the Feast of the Annunciation, when the Archangel Gabriel was said to have told the Virgin Mary that she would give birth to Christ. From the mid-12th century until 1752, Lady Day marked the beginning of the legal calendar year in England. But that was not the only new year. For financial matters, especially taxes and royal accounts, the year began on Michaelmas, the feast of St. Michael and All Angels, celebrated on the 29th of September. In parts of Eastern Christianity, the fiscal year began even later, in November. So already we have three different beginnings of the year: January 1st for social customs, March 25th for legal and religious purposes, September 29th for finances. And this was only in England. Once you left England, matters became even more complicated. Different European cities and states began the year on different dates. Venice and Florence started the year on March 25th, but considered January, February, and most of March as belonging to the previous year. Pisa also began the year on March 25th, but counted differently. The result? Traveling across Europe could literally move you backward or forward in time. Historian Ian Mortimer gives a striking example. Imagine sailing from England on January 1st, 1366. When you arrive in Pisa in February, it is already the year 1367. Travel onward to Venice before the end of February, and suddenly it is 1366 again. Leave Venice after March 1st, and it becomes 1367. Ride to Florence, and you are once again in 1366. Return to Pisa after March 25th, and the year is now 1368. And if you sail on to Portugal or Castile, the date changes entirely. There, time is still reckoned using the Spanish era, which counted years from 38 BC. By medieval standards, it was the year 1405. This system remained in use in Portugal until 1422 and in Castile until 1384. There was no universal agreement on what year it was. To make things even more confusing, many medieval people did not use the year of our Lord at all. Instead, they used regnal years, counting time according to how long a king had ruled. An event might be described as happening in the 3rd, 10th, or 17th year of a monarch's reign. The year did not reset in January or March, but on the exact day the king ascended the throne. Take England in the year we call 1388. Legally, the year began on March 25th. But it was also the 11th year of King Richard II's reign, because Richard became king on June 22nd, 1377. So a single date might be described as the Monday before the Feast of the Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, in the 11th year of the reign of King Richard II after the conquest. Efficient? Not exactly. Confusing similar religious feasts, such as the Annunciation and the Assumption, could shift an event by months or even an entire year. Medieval Europe still relied on the Roman Julian calendar, introduced by Julius Caesar in 46 BC. In this system, days were not counted forward from the first of the month, but backward from fixed points. Calends, the first day of the month. Nones, the 5th or 7th day. Ides, the 13th or 15th day. Dates were expressed by counting backward from these markers. So when a chronicle states that an event happened on the 3rd of the calends of April, it actually means March 30th. Similarly, the 3rd of the nones of May translates to May 5th. To understand the date, you had to know how many days were in the month and count backward correctly. Even worse, dates described as being in the calends of a month technically belong to the previous month. No wonder medieval chroniclers often disagreed. Now let us turn from dates to the passing of the day itself. Before the invention of the minute hand, the minute as a unit of time barely existed in daily life. Most mechanical clocks had only an hour hand until the late 17th century. Sundials, candle clocks, and early water clocks could not measure minutes accurately. Some water clocks could estimate quarters of an hour, but this was rare. Even more strangely, medieval hours were not fixed in length. Hours were counted from sunrise, not from midnight. Daylight was divided into 12 equal parts, and nighttime into another 12. This meant that the length of an hour changed with the seasons. In winter, when daylight was short, an hour could last as little as 30 minutes. In summer, it might last more than 70 minutes. Time itself stretched and shrank. Monks divided the day into 8 liturgical hours: matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, and compline. Bells rang to mark each moment of prayer. Prime was rung at dawn, terce marked mid-morning, sext occurred at midday, none fell in mid-afternoon. Compline ended the day shortly after sunset. In winter London, prime might ring around 8 a.m. In summer, it could ring before 4 a.m. Compline might sound at 6 p.m. in winter, but as late as 9:30 p.m. in summer. The bell, not the clock, ruled medieval life. The first recorded clock to strike the hour appeared in Milan in 1336. The technology spread quickly. By the late 14th century, striking clocks were found in royal palaces and cathedrals across Europe. These clocks did not show time visually. Instead, they rang bells to announce the hour. Slowly, the mechanical clock replaced the sun as the ultimate authority of time. Hours became equal in length throughout the year. Eventually, people shortened the phrase, "according to the clock," into a familiar expression still used today, o'clock. For most medieval people, exact birth dates were never recorded. Peasants remembered being born at harvest time, in winter, or near a religious feast. Age was estimated, not counted. A mother might say her child was born in the 5th year of a king's reign. Now that it is the 17th year, the child must be around 12. Exact age mattered far less than knowing whether someone was old enough to work, marry, or bear children. Medieval time was fluid, layered, and deeply human. It followed the sun, the church, the king, and tradition, often all at once. Minutes did not exist. Years disagreed. Dates shifted depending on where you stood. And yet medieval society functioned. Time was not measured precisely, but it was lived. Thank you for watching Untold Medieval Mysteries. If you enjoyed this journey into the medieval mind, consider subscribing. Until next time.